Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little different, and honestly, something highly practical. We're doing a full, comprehensive, step-by-step security audit of the technology sitting right there in your pocket. Now, if you're the kind of person who keeps tabs on modern digital surveillance, you probably already know that our phones and our computers are constantly trading our personal data for convenience, right? But today, we're putting a spotlight on a piece of tech that flies almost completely under the radar. So go ahead, grab your wallet, take a look at the cards inside, and let's get started on your personal threat assessment.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to picture a scenario. You're just walking through a packed train station. You haven't taken out your wallet. You certainly haven't swiped or inserted a credit card anywhere. Yet, somehow, the information on your card has just been successfully read by a device several feet away. So, how did your card just get read? Well, the unsettling truth is that the exact same technology that lets you seamlessly tap for your morning coffee without contact, without a PIN, is actually broadcasting all the time. It's this dormant system just waiting to be woken up, and it can be activated by a device the size of a smartphone entirely without your knowledge.
So, here's our agenda for this step-by-step security audit. We're going to run through a hardware check, look at the physics of energy harvesting, evaluate the software defenses, compare passive versus active threats, weigh physical versus software protections, and finally, build your personal security action plan.
All right, step 1. Hardware check. The tech in your pocket.
Before we can talk about how someone reads your card, we got to define the tech that's actually hidden inside that little piece of plastic you carry everywhere. It's called RFID, or radio frequency identification, and it's essentially a technology that uses radio waves to transmit data between devices without any physical contact, and crucially, without an internal battery. It's honestly a remarkably sophisticated piece of microengineering. Inside your modern contactless card, there are two main components making the magic happen. First, a tiny microchip, an integrated circuit that stores your info and handles the basic security math. And second, which you can actually sometimes see if you hold your card right up to a bright light, there's a flat copper antenna coil embedded right into the plastic. But here's the million-dollar question. If this chip transmits data and it doesn't have a battery, how on earth is it getting the power to broadcast?
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer physics of it. It's best to think of it like a solar panel. The payment terminal, or, a hacker's hidden reader, acts like a flashlight, emitting a low-power electromagnetic field. That copper antenna inside your card, it acts precisely like a solar panel. It harvests the energy directly from that magnetic field. It needs absolutely no battery, no charging. It literally powers itself using the reader's energy, wakes up the chip, and fires your data back. And it does all of this in roughly 50 milliseconds. That is literally faster than a hummingbird flaps its wings.
Moving on to step 2, evaluating software defenses, the built-in architecture.
Now, I want to reassure you right off the bat, the engineers who designed these cards weren't naive. They didn't just leave your data entirely out in the open. The system is actually built with a pretty robust, layered security architecture. Layer 1 uses dynamic transaction codes. Layer 2 relies on strict transaction limits, basically capping how much you can spend before it forces you to enter a PIN or sign. And Layer 3 ensures limited data transmission, meaning the card only spits out the absolute bare minimum data required to process a transaction, purposefully leaving out sensitive stuff like your billing address.
Let's look a bit closer at that first layer, though, because it is absolutely critical. Dynamic transaction codes are unique, one-time cryptographic tokens generated for a single specific transaction, and they expire almost instantly. This specific technology is exactly why simple data replay attacks just flat out fail. Even if someone intercepts the radio waves from your tap payment, the code they captured is immediately useless. They can't just copy it and reuse it to drain your bank account later that day. It effectively neutralizes the threat of someone intercepting your tap payment for massive, large-scale financial fraud.
Step 3, passive versus active threats. What can actually be captured?
So if the software stops massive financial fraud, what's the big deal? What is still leaking out? Well, look at active financial fraud. Stealing your card number to go buy a big screen TV. This is actually a lower threat level in person precisely because of those dynamic codes we just talked about. But passive data harvesting, that's a completely different ballgame. Just by walking past you, an unauthorized reader can capture your transaction history, where you shop, when you shop, and it can confirm your physical presence in a specific location. The motive here isn't a quick payday, it's behavioral tracking and social engineering. This threat is much higher because it's quiet, it's systematic, and it happens at an enormous volume without anyone ever noticing. This completely shatters that Hollywood myth of the hacker draining your life savings while standing next to you on the subway.
So the crucial point is the range.
You might think someone literally has to bump into you to read your card. They don't. Security researchers using concealed readers with high-gain antennas have successfully harvested card data from unsuspecting crowds up to a full meter away. 1 meter. Just imagine standing on a crowded commuter train or, waiting in line at a coffee shop. A 1 meter radius covers dozens of pockets and purses, all broadcasting data to a single concealed device.
Step 4. Physical versus software protections, weighing your defenses.
Here is the stark contrast when we look at defending against this. Physical shielding measures like RFID blocking sleeves or wallets address the physics. They act kind of like a tinfoil hat for your wallet, creating a Faraday cage that completely blocks that flashlight-like electromagnetic field from ever reaching your card's antenna. It stops the card from waking up entirely. Modern software encryption, on the flip side, addresses the data. It doesn't do a thing to stop the radio waves from waking up your card, but it scrambles the payment data so it's useless for major fraud. The key takeaway here? Software encryption prevents major financial theft for sure, but only physical shielding stops that quiet, passive behavioral tracking and presence detection.
I really want you to let this quote sink in. Radio waves do not check credentials. They do not verify intent. They respond to physics, not authorization. Man, that perfectly summarizes the core vulnerability of the tech in your pocket. Your card is essentially just a passive radio transmitter. It literally cannot tell the difference between a legitimate store terminal that you want to pay and a hacker's backpack sitting on the floor of the subway. If the physics are right, the card's going to wake up and talk.
Finally, Step 5. Your Security Action Plan, Mitigation Strategy. Let's move to and see how this builds into an actionable hierarchy based on your own personal risk profile and your daily environment. Level 1 is just understanding your exposure. Older cards actually transmit more data, so go ahead and replace any card older than 3 years. Level 2 is physical defense. Invest in a certified RFID blocking wallet or sleeve to just stop the physics outright. Level 3 is placement awareness. Simply keeping your wallet in a front pocket or an inner jacket pocket maximizes the physical distance from any hidden readers. Level 4 is active monitoring. Definitely turn on those real-time push notifications on your phone so you can spot anomalies instantly. And finally, Level 5, maximum security. If you work in a highly sensitive environment, you can actually just ask your bank for a card with a contactless chip completely disabled. It's totally up to you. You choose the level that makes sense for your life.
As we wrap up this audit, we really have to look at the bigger picture here. The vulnerability in your credit card is just one tiny piece of a much, much larger ecosystem. Because the exact same physics, the same energy harvesting antennas and radio waves, they apply to your transit passes, your electronic passports, your secure workplace IDs, the whole shebang. The modern convenience economy is built entirely on this seamless, frictionless technology. But remember, every single time friction is removed, a trade is being made on your behalf. You're trading your absolute control over your personal data for ease of use. Which leaves us with this final thought. Look, we aren't telling you to go out and take a pair of scissors to your credit cards. We're telling you to take control. The next time you tap your card for a seamless payment, are you making an informed decision about what you are broadcasting out into the world, or are you just accepting the default? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take a hard look at your wallet today, choose your level of protection, and I will see you next time as we continue to decode the world around us.